And Karine, you can just let us know whenever we are live. All right, we will give some others a few minutes to come in, and then we will get started in about another minute. All righty, Katrina, are you ready to get started?
Yes.
All right, I think we are good to go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Florida Rural Water Association Registered Apprenticeship Information Session. This information session has been put together to provide you information with the paid apprenticeship opportunities with the Florida Rural Water Association. And so this afternoon, you will hear from presenters from the association who will give you information of how you can get involved with the apprenticeship. I would now like to introduce my colleague, Katrina Johnson, who will take you through some informational slides.
Thank you, Cara. We're going to have an overview of the session with welcome and introductions, the information session with Joni Sinach, with Florida Rural Water Association, Q&A, and our final thought, next steps.
So I know Katrina's having some technology challenges, so I may jump in for some of the pieces. So Katrina, I don't know if your internet is giving trouble, but I'll go ahead. So just a little bit of information about CareerSource Capital Region. We are a nonprofit workforce development organization. We cover Gadsden, Leon, and Wakulla counties. There are CareerSource organizations throughout the state of Florida, and so we are happy to cover the capital region. We provide comprehensive employment and workforce solutions. And we also provide career seeker solutions that include career counseling, resume assistance, training, and skills development. And so we are excited to partner with the Florida Rural Water Association on this apprenticeship, which is also a training and development offering.
Thank you, Cara. I can take it from here.
Okay.
What is the purpose of the Registered Apprenticeship Program? The purpose of the Registered Apprenticeship Program is to enable employers to develop and apply industry-recognized standards to training programs. Registered apprenticeships are employer-driven workforce development solutions that combine on-the-job learning with related classroom instruction. There are over 500,000 registered apprenticeships nationwide and 1,200 occupations. Employers' goal is to recruit, employ, train, and retain highly skilled workers. Apprentices' goal is to learn and earn. Apprenticeships can be the answer for both employers and employees. Apprenticeships can help develop an employee's technical, interpersonal, and leadership skills, assist with recruitment efforts, and retain new talent in your organization. For more information, please contact the Registered Apprenticeship Solutions team at info@careersourcecapitalregion.com. And I'm now going to turn it over to Joni Sinach with the Florida Rural Water Association. The Florida Rural Water Association is an organization that assists water and wastewater systems with every phase of the water and wastewater operations. Their members consist of public water and wastewater systems such as counties, municipalities, associations, districts, mobile homes. The Florida Rural Water Association trainers have many years of experience in the water and wastewater industry. They have worked in the industry for many years and can enhance the level of knowledge that an apprentice receives beyond the training received on the job. Joni?
Thank you. We actually all appreciate the opportunity to be part of Career Source Capital Region and to be able to talk about our program with everybody. We appreciate you attending, so thank you very much. We have a brief overview of the program with the slideshow that's going to come up, and on the meeting right now, we have several of our trainers. We have Ben Lewis, who is next to me here, and we have Jamie Hope, who's calling in from Gainesville. We do this program throughout the state of Florida, so we do have people in different areas that are involved across the state. So if you could pull up the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. I'll have it up for you in just one moment, please.
Okay. And after we get through with the presentation, I know there's going to be a question and answer, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. So just jot them down while we're going through this brief presentation. And I don't know if I mentioned, but Ben and Jamie are going to be jumping in on the presentation as well.
Yep, just give me a moment. I'm having some challenges pulling up the presentation itself, so I don't know if we're just having tech challenges all around. So we'll get it up for you in 1 second. So
that's fine. We can start with a little brief.
Yeah, if you can start with that, that would be awesome.
Okay.
To do that, and then I will get it up. I'm so sorry. I am working on it.
Water and wastewater, this is a very important industry across the United States, across the state of Florida, obviously, and across the world. Water and wastewater is an industry that is very, very important. We hear a lot about first responders being in the healthcare industry and being firefighters and policemen. One area that's not looked at very often is water and wastewater. Without water, and then without some place for it to go for the wastewater system, we can't function. The healthcare industry can't function. The state can't function. You have to have clean water. You have to have a place for the water to go. You have to be able to treat the wastewater so that it doesn't pollute the lakes, rivers, and streams. So water and wastewater is a very, very important industry. I say that because all of us, Jamie, Ben, me, we've all been involved in it for quite some time, but also because I know that when I turn on the tap, I expect to have clean water, and when I flush the toilet, I expect for it to go somewhere and not go out in the yard or something like that. Seems a little odd, but when you stop and think about it, it's very important. How do we encourage people to wash their hands if they don't have the ability to wash their hands? They don't have the ability to do what they need to do. So water and wastewater is, like I said, a very, very important industry. And we believe that water and wastewater operators are also what we would consider first responders as well. Throughout the COVID pandemic, we've made sure that Florida Rural Water has worked very closely with our water and wastewater operators and our systems throughout the state of Florida to make sure that they have what they need to continue to operate in a safe manner so that they can assure the safety of their customers. So how are we doing on the PowerPoint?
Still trying to find it. Keep talking.
Okay, that's not a problem. This program, it's called an apprenticeship program. It's a workforce development program because we work with both the people coming into the industry like yourselves that are interested in learning the industry and then becoming certified, licensed, and able to work in the industry and make it a career. We work with y'all, but we also work with the utilities. There are quite a few utilities throughout the state of Florida. There's 5,100 drinking water utilities in the state of Florida, and there's well over 2,000 wastewater facilities in the state of Florida. So it's very, very important that we have a solid base of water and wastewater operators. And when we talk about a solid base, we want to assure, Florida Rural Water wants to assure that those operators are trained to the best of their ability and trained to know and understand various types of treatment, since you don't always have the same treatment at every drinking water facility throughout the state or throughout the United States.
Okay, PowerPoint's up.
Thank you. The Water and Wastewater Workforce Development Program is just that. It's actually working with the, I'm sorry, I'm stuttering over my words. It's working with the Department of Labor and National Rural Water to train operators, apprentices to be operators, and to give them a national certification once they finish the program that allows them to be able to go outside the state and get licensed in other states and work there as well if you move, because we are a very mobile society. So that's kind of a high-level overview. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this tells you a little bit about our program. The quote on this slide is from National Rural Water. One of the things that we all know, those of us who are in the industry on a daily basis, one of the things we know is that this is an industry that when people have entered it in the past, they've stayed in it. So you entered it when you were 18, 19, 20, and you stayed in. Well, we're getting to the point now where a lot of our operators are at retirement age. They've worked in the field for a while, 30 years or so, and they're ready to retire. And so we need to make sure that we're replenishing we're replenishing with new operators, new well-trained operators to go out there and take these systems over. And it's very, very important for us. Again, like I said, this is to protect public health. If you're doing drinking water, obviously you know that it's very, very important for the customer to be able to turn on that tap and drink that water without having a second thought. And with wastewater, it's very important to make sure that we do not pollute the environment, and which will ultimately affect our drinking water as well. So here this quote is telling you that we're expecting within the next 5 or 10 years to lose almost half of our current certified operators around the United States. That's why this apprenticeship program is very important to us and very important to the state of Florida especially. And we're very happy that you've joined us today.
One of the things too is, Joni mentioned that people came in at 18, 19 and they came in and worked. Our industry also has a lot of second career people that came out of the military, people that came out of law enforcement or some other career, and then they came in. which makes them at a higher age. So those folks are the ones that are also, they're at the time of retirement. So that means that we don't have just the normal retirement. We have quite a few people leaving at the same time here in the next few years. So it is very important that we recruit and we get some, good people that are willing to learn our career and advance forward.
That's a good point. Jamie, do you have anything to jump in on that one with?
No, like Ben, I think one of the things that this industry is, just like most that we hear about on the news, the electric trade, plumbing, HVAC, and water wastewater is just one of those entities that is having a older workforce that, like the Joni talked about, within the next 5 years, we expect to lose almost half of the current licensed operators. One of the things that Joni and Ben and I talked about is the average age in Florida is about 55 years old. So there is a number of older people in the field, and trying to encourage younger, more energetic, more able to be trained individuals would be very, very helpful moving forward.
Thanks, Jamie. I do want to add to that this is not an industry, or this is not a program geared only at the younger generation. This is a program geared for anybody in the workforce. So if, let's say that you are one of those people who retired from a previous job and you're, 40, 45, so 50, and you are wanting to go into a second career and you're looking at this as a second career, that's still an option. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not just for the younger generation. Can you go to the next slide, please? And the goal of, I already talked a little bit about this, but the goal of this program is to work with Department of Education, Department of Labor, and we're actually working with transitioning military and anyone that we can, to look for people who are interested in learning about how to become a water and wastewater operator, learning the information, getting the hands-on training, which we'll go over in a minute, to understand and be able to work and actually enjoy the job as you go forward, which, as I said, Jamie, Ben, me, we've all been in this for a little while, and we all love it, or we wouldn't have stayed in it, and we see the importance of the program. So we're wanting to make sure that this program is designed to give people who are interested in water and wastewater. You may not even think you're interested in water and wastewater, but give it a thought, because there's a lot to it, and we want to provide technical training and on-the-job learning so that you get to see what's involved in the field and get to see that it's more than just going out and taking samples or going out and making sure that the wastewater is flowing. There's a lot of nuances to the program, and that's what we are geared towards teaching you and making sure that you understand, even as you work in a water or wastewater plant, to get the on-the-job part of the training.
And the good part about teaming up with Department of Education and Department of Labor is this is nationally recognized, meaning that this will help you to become better sought after, not only in the state of Florida, but any state. So if you happen to choose to leave the state of Florida for, I don't know, understand why you would, but if you do, you could carry that recognition with you.
That's a good point. We wait to see if Jamie wants to talk. We go to the next slide. This is just kind of giving you a brief overview. The apprenticeship program, we really work with, as I said in the beginning, we work with both the apprentices in the workforce development part, but we also work as part of the workforce development with the utilities that are going to be employing the apprentice as they're going through this program, and they're going to be training on their operations during this time. So our whole goal, our main goal is to bring people and employers together and build a good education base, a good base of what it means to be a licensed drinking water operator or a licensed wastewater operator. As I said before, it can be very challenging. And some of the things that this slide points out is that some of the things we do in the apprenticeship training, besides having you learn on the job, is we also do classroom training. Typically it's 2 days a month. So it's not a huge amount, but we work with the employers to make sure that you're at a classroom or at a tour of a water or wastewater plant, anything that we can do to give you a well-rounded base of knowledge, so that even though you work at, say, a wastewater plant or a drinking water plant in North Florida and learn all about, let's say, a groundwater system with just chlorine. I know this is going a little far, but we try to give you enough information so that you can then move to South Florida and work for a drinking water facility that has an entirely different type of treatment process. So we do a lot of hands-on, we do a lot of safety training. The water and wastewater industry is considered a hazardous industry because you are working with chemicals, you are working with things that you're working with heavy equipment, things like that. So we make sure that we cover training such as safety and how to do maintenance on your equipment and how to do emergency response. There's a lot of things that are covered in this program. Ben, do you have anything?
No, you covered that one well.
Do you want to go to the next slide? As I said, we do both classroom training. We also do hands-on training where we have things that are called cutaways, which show you the inside of the pumps, show you different things so that you don't just walk in to a utility and a pump breaks down and you have to call somebody. What we want you to be able to do is if a pump breaks down, we want you to understand how that pump works and be able to troubleshoot it, how that motor works, how that chlorinator works. So there's a lot of things that you learn that in the classroom or in the hands-on training or even in the tours that you won't get from doing your on-the-job training. I keep pointing out that there's on-the-job training. In order to do your licensing or sit for your license, which is your Class C license, there's a Class C, a Class B, and a Class A for both water and for wastewater. And there's a certain number of hours of experience you have to have on the job. It's 2,080 hours. And there's also a certain number of hours you have to have in related technical training. And the related technical instruction is what I'm talking about when I talk about being in the classroom or on a tour of water and wastewater facilities or being in different situations doing hands-on work with equipment. That is all covering what you need in order to be able to take your Class C license in water or wastewater. We want you to, I might want to say that right here, we want you to understand that we're going to ask for anybody who wants to be in this program. We're going to ask if you want to be in the drinking water side or the wastewater side. Eventually down the road, you can also do the other side, but it's a lot of information. It's a lot of things to learn. And it's something that you want to go down one path or the other first and learn that, get that under your belt. And then if you decide to go down the other path, you can. This is typically a 2-year program. We work with the employer. We work with matching apprentices with employers, and we work with employers matching them with apprentices. So this is something that we pace the program based on the apprentices, based on how you're picking things up. Don't feel like I'm telling you this is a lot of information. Don't feel like you're going to be overwhelmed because these trainers we have, Jamie, Ben, we also have another trainer, Steve. These trainers have been through it. They know the material, they know the industry, and they know how to teach it because they've been doing it for quite a while. They've learned how to get the information to people so that they understand it. And I've taken their classes, and I will tell you, they do definitely work with you to learn the information.
The whole process of the apprenticeship is to get you the experience and get you through the course. As you can see, this is a classroom setting. One of the things we try to do is break up the classroom setting to hands-on. So we'll do some hands-on, some classroom. Then we'll do a tour because we want to take you to multiple systems, not so you see just how one system does it, but how multiple systems do it. And that's how you learn. You're going to learn from the instructor. You're going to learn from each other. You're going to learn from other operators on the job. And this gets you a well-rounded person at the end of this program, which allows you to get your foot in the door.
Good points. Jamie, you have anything to jump in on that?
Well, and I just want to add to what Ben was talking about as far as the well-rounded. The course that we teach is the California Sacramento University Office of Water Programs, volumes 1 and 2 for drinking water, or volume 1 and 2 for wastewater. And typically the operators that are currently in Florida, a lot of us as operators took that course, and it was a correspondence course. You're studying at night or during the daytime, depending on what your work schedule or off schedule is. And there was really no interaction with anyone else other than you, and putting it in an envelope and sending the test to California for to review the test or to grade the test. So by having the classroom setting, having Ben or myself or Steve, some of the other instructors, it gives them the opportunity to ask questions. And if they're not grasping something, or if they're just really not understanding, they have that opportunity to ask questions and have it explained to them. Whereas a typical correspondence course, they don't have that interaction with the instructor or with the students. So I just think it provides both a very well-rounded work setting as well as classroom setting for them to ask questions. And if someone is having a question regarding a particular topic, more than likely the other students are having a similar type of question, so that that one person that says, hey, I need some additional help, may provide other individuals in the classroom with that same information that they may been reluctant to ask for. So that classroom setting just gives the opportunities for that interaction with the students and the instructors, as well as the other students.
Good point, Jamie. And I was thinking as you were talking that another thing that happens when you're taking the class in a classroom, learning the material in a classroom setting as opposed to learning it and self-study, is that what these trainers do is they bring their own knowledge in, because the Sacramento course is written to be used across the United States. And so it's more of an ideal system that it's training you about. It doesn't really take you into some of the nuances. And these trainers who've been in the field, who've worked in the field, they take you down into the nuances so you really understand at a real world level what you're going to get into when you get out, and what you're going to see as you're on the job learning and finally working on in this career. I will point out that I said earlier that this could be considered, this is considered by Department of Labor a hazardous field. However, it's very low hazard. And the thing that keeps it low hazard is proper safety training. And that's one piece of the training that is very, very focused on, so that as you get into the field and as you get into working on the job, you will have that knowledge to fall back on in an emergency, because that's the most important thing. You learn it right the first time. Then when you're in an emergency, you automatically go back to your training. So that's something that is focused on. Can we go to the next slide? This kind of gives you a little bit of idea of what some of the stuff is that we will use and do. It's not the same every time, but these are some of our, this is actually our, we have Florida Rural Water has a warehouse in Cairo, Georgia, and these are taken at that warehouse. I'm sure that Ben and Jamie will jump in on this, but another focus of this is to give you training that you may not get on the job, but you will need in the future, such as getting a Class A CDL license that some of the jobs will ask for later on, but may not be the one you're in right now. Also working with generators, working with chlorinators, learning how to run a forklift, learning how to work with heavy equipment. Those are things that when you're on the job, the utility may not be able to train you on that as you're an apprentice, but that's one of the things that we do in this program is to get you experienced in as much as we possibly can, get you to be able to see something and at least recognize it and know what the best method is to deal with it.
And with this equipment, one of the biggest things we want is you to be able to take this equipment apart, maintenance it, put it back together, see the functionality. We don't want you just to come and look at it, and we don't want you to have someone else tell you about it. So if we're working on a chlorinator unit, we want you to be able to tear that apart and fix it. What makes you valuable is that if you go to a company, you can now do this without having to contract it out to a chlorine company that would charge you a lot of money. So those are the type of things that companies are going to look at and say, hey, we can save money by having this person come alongside of us and work with us. They're well trained, and that's the whole purpose of the hands-on. So when you're done with this course, not only do you have the book knowledge and the license, you have the actual live hands-on experience that you can go to work and not have to be trained.
Good point. I'm sure Jamie has something to add on to that.
Well, I just wanted to say from like in the pictures, there's a couple of different things, you know, generators, we talk about emergency response and we're in the middle of hurricane season. A lot of utilities rely on the state and Florida Rural Water to assist them in a tropical storm or natural disaster setting. So one of the things in a classroom setting, we go over how to hook up a generator to a well or to a lift station in a classroom setting, instead of typically when that's being done, it's in the middle of the night. The conditions aren't always the best of situations. So by doing it several times or more than that in a classroom setting, it just makes the individual that much more comfortable. And like Joni said, after all of this training, when there is an emergency, the person is going to default to the level of training. They're not going to rise to the emergency, suddenly know how to wire up a generator. But by doing it multiple times and seeing it done multiple times, they'll know how to do it if they're asked to do it in the future.
Those are good points. So like I said, there's a lot, like we've all said, we keep saying that there's hands-on training and on-the-job training. And those go very, very well hand in hand, because you get both the experience of being in a drinking water or wastewater plant, depending on which way you want to go, but you learn what you're looking at, you learn how to work with it, you learn things, you have the trainers to ask questions of, hey, I learned this on the job, and maybe you didn't have the opportunity to ask your mentor what was going on, but you can ask your trainer at the next session, hey, what's going on? What can I do to help them out in the future? That kind of thing. So those are very good points. Thank you, Jamie and Ben. I think we have one more slide. Basically, these are the minimum criteria to be part of this program. As I said, you are matched up. We do our best to match you with an employer, which is a utility. The utility may have their own requirements. But as a general rule, with an apprenticeship program, a workforce development program such as this, as long as you meet these 5 requirements, you have a pretty good opportunity to be part of the program. So the drug test and the background check are going to be required at pretty much every utility you ever work at, simply because you are dealing with people's health and safety, because you're dealing with their drinking water and you're dealing with their wastewater. And so that is something that is very important. And then the others, the high school diploma or a GED or an equivalent, a valid driver's license, and you must be at least 18 years old. If you know anybody that's interested in water and wastewater and they're less than 18, we do have a youth outreach program that's a little different. You can get them in contact with Career Source and they can send me their information. But it's not the kind of program that you have to have a college diploma for. It's not the kind of program that you need to go and have anything really outstanding under your belt. It's a program that's geared towards people who want to get into an industry that is a very important industry. They want to get into an industry that is helping the state of Florida. And again, like Ben and Jamie have both pointed out, this the apprenticeship program, the workforce development, is a national program under Department of Labor. So when you complete the program, you do end up with a certificate that says that you've completed a national program. And at that point, if you go to another state, they will look at that. They can use that as idea that, hey, this person's coming in, they're well trained, and you know that you may have to meet the requirements of the other state, but you still have that. So it's a very important program. Like I said, we feel very strongly about it. Again, even like I said, during the pandemic, there's been a lot of concern because right now the state of Florida has, we have about 16,000 operator licenses out there. There are a lot of operators that are dual licensed. There are operators, or there are people who have a license, but they're not currently working in the field because they are trainers or they are retired, but they've kept their license up just in case, things like that. So when you look at all those factors, we don't have a huge amount of operators, certified operators for drinking water and wastewater in the state of Florida. And if you're looking at you're already looking at over 8,000 water and wastewater utilities throughout the state of Florida. You're looking at, say, 8,000 or 9,000 licensed operators, and it's not a one-to-one relationship because some utilities, larger utilities, may have 10, 15 operators, whereas some of your smaller utilities might share an operator. But this is an industry that, again, we said that it's aging to the point where you're going to start having people who have been in the industry for 30 plus years and are ready to retire. And we are very, very passionate about getting more people, new people into the industry, getting them trained and getting them through their licensing, their certification, so that they can work in the industry and replenish all of that great knowledge that we're about to lose. So Ben?
I just want to say that this is an industry where you can grow. It's not an industry where you come in at the bottom level and you stay at the bottom level. We're getting your foot at the door at the bottom level, but you can continue to upgrade your license from a C to a B to an A. You can go through other courses. Most of your facilities allow you to for training. You can become managers and leaders in this profession. So it is a good profession where you make a good, solid living. You can actually make a great living at it. It's the more you produce yourself and the more you advance. The more, it's like anything else. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And I've been doing this for 37 years, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. And there comes a time where, again, you have to decide that you're either going to retire or you're going to hang in there until you die. So most people are retiring, so we do need good people to step in and come into this profession.
Good point.
Yeah, and I just want to add that every 5 or 10 years, different magazines do what they consider to be the top 10 jobs or the top jobs in America that Americans can't live without. And water wastewater operators are always number 2 on that list for the last 25 or 35 plus years that I've been in the field. And it's just a testament to what Joni talked about earlier, is that we live in a community where we expect there to be clean water coming out of the tap, as well as a place for it to go safely to be treated once it is used and consumed by the citizens. And in Florida, because of the springs and the amount of recreation and industries that rely on the environment, it's water and wastewater operator is a very, very rewarding career. And I should have said from the very beginning, not all wastewater operators are bald, so please don't let that discourage the wastewater field.
And that's pretty much what we have.
All right, Joni, we do have some questions from some of the attendees. I didn't know if you wanted to put up the apprentice application. Obviously, the next steps, a lot of people are asking, well, how can I sign up for the program? Obviously, at Career Source, we've answered that, go through Employ Florida, but I didn't know if you wanted to share with them what your apprenticeship application looked like.
Absolutely. If you could pull that up, I'd be glad to go over it.
Okay, hold on one moment. Hopefully I'll be able to get it up a lot quicker than your presentation.
Our application is actually pretty simple. We ask for basic information. I'm going to be updating this application, but it's still going to be similar to this. We just need to know where you're located, where you're at, and also if you have a high school degree or a GED, we need to know that information. What your past work experience is, which is what's down at the bottom, and if you've ever worked in the water and wastewater industry. If you go to the second page, it asks you again for work experience, and this is specific, and I changed it already. This is specific to water and wastewater. So you want to make sure that you have both your work experience that you've already had, and it could be totally unrelated. We totally understand that. But we also would like to see any work experience you might have had that you feel relates to water and wastewater. One thing that I don't think is on this application yet, which is why I'm revising it, is the track, whether you want to be in water or whether you want to be in wastewater. As I said, you really want to pick a track. There'll also be, after you fill this application out, you'll probably also get a second application that's just a equal opportunity survey application that we have filled out too. But this is it. It's pretty basic. Do you have a driver's license? Do you have a GED or a high school diploma or more? What's your work experience, and who you are, how we can contact you, and where you live. That's pretty much it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. There are a couple of questions in the chat box. I think we've answered most of the ones in the chat box, but there are some in the Q&A that we tried to answer throughout. Katrina and Ari, can you guys help me to make sure that I captured everything? Katrina, I heard you chiming in.
Yeah, I just wanted the attendees to know that they need to go through our process to apply for these positions first before that application that Joni shared with them will be sent to them. So
okay.
Everything begins with Employ Florida, and at some point along the way, if they're deemed eligible for this opportunity, they will be sent that application.
Okay.
There
So
was one question that has not been answered yet about professional development opportunities.
Yeah, there's a question that says, what type of professional development and or promotional opportunities is afforded within this industry?
Ben, do you want to take that since? you
Yeah,
already-
again, like I said a while ago, most all facilities want you to advance and will give you the opportunity to go through correspondence courses, classes, college courses. They actually, really promote it to professionally develop yourself. That's what's going to drive the promotional. Now, there will be promotions throughout your career, whether you do the professional development, but the more you better yourself, the more you put in your time and your knowledge, the more you're going to be rewarded with that.
Even the trainers that you see here, Jamie and Ben, they've actually worked in the industry and they've moved up through the industry and they've moved into the training that they're doing now, but they've also done other things like managed at wastewater plants and things like that. So you can definitely move up through this industry just like you can pretty much any industry.
Oh yeah, this will afford you to become utility directors, city managers. We have a person that works with us that has been city managers at 2 or 3 different places. I was a utility director. Jamie's been directors. So again, the more you put into it, the more you will get out of it.
Okay, another question is, how physically demanding is the job?
We have to laugh at that one just because.
Yeah, I seen that question and I started laughing because I will tell you my experience is it's very physically to start with. Again, you find yourself doing the shovel work at the bottom of the pole, and one day your brain clicks and says, I don't want to be here. So you start training, you start going through more classes, and you wind up. So how physical can it be? It can be very physical to no physical at all, depending on where you are on the ladder.
Well, and two, the thing that most people understand, but just to have it be said, is this is a typical outside industry. So in the wintertime, it's very cold, and in the summertime, like it is now, it's very hot. So there is that opportunity to be outdoors, if that is something that it draws you to that, as well as this industry is really adapting with technology. So someone that is good with computers or other analytical, like on a laboratory setting, which Joni has a lot of background in a laboratory setting. So there's really, really many aspects of this industry that as an operator, as Ben said, really the sky is the limit. You can move on to bigger and better things. And we've got folks that have really even gone to college as a result of some tuition reimbursement programs, depending on the utility that they work for. So there are colleges now in Florida that recognize the water wastewater industry, and they're giving environmental science degrees, both on the AS and a BS level. So a lot of friends of mine over the years are now have a college degree, a lot of it with time that they put in at a water or a wastewater utility.
Oh, nice. So there was a question that someone asked if they could, if they will be able to attend school while in the program. So I don't know if they were in college. I'm not sure. They were wondering if they could attend school while in the program.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that because again, we normally have 2 days a month through apprenticeship training. So as long as it didn't, we knew about it ahead of time and we worked through that, we could probably work around that.
And the employer would obviously weigh in on that. So it would be something that we would have to work out. They would have to work out with the utility that they're getting their on-the-job training from in order to get that time to go to school. Most utilities will work with their trainees and even their operators to allow them to get professional development or to allow them to go on to school because it is something that's important. unless that's, can I attend to get my high school diploma or GED?
Yeah.
If it's that, then you wouldn't qualify for this level of the program, but we do have other things that you might qualify for, and you can talk to Employ Florida and they can get us your information.
Okay, there was a question that asked, how would an apprentice decide which option to choose, the wastewater or water operator? How do you know which one to start with?
I'm gonna tell you, Jamie's wastewater, Ben's water. I personally have worked in both and I like them both. They've worked in both. I think they like them both. Go ahead, Jamie. What were you gonna say?
Well, no, I just think a lot of it is, personal choice. Drinking water obviously is a huge industry. And like Joni said, and in this day and time where everybody on the news is telling us we need to wash our hands, we need to wash our hands. If we didn't provide safe drinking water for that service, the pandemic would obviously potentially be much worse as a result of that. Or on the wastewater side, not having a safe place for that to be gone and treated and then obviously cleaned up and then discharged back into the environment. So I spent many years in my career in the wastewater side. It really changes almost on a daily basis. So you really are exposed to a lot of different things. It's very, very dynamic process, whereas other people on the drinking water side enjoy the fact that theirs is relatively stagnant, where we're pulling.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Doesn't change much. Not that difficult to make drinking water. It's much more difficult to make.
Okay, now you're gonna get into an argument between drinking water and wastewater.
And I will say that wastewater is more fun. If you really want to enjoy, what you do, the wastewater side is a lot more fun because like Jamie said, it changes constantly. The water side pretty much stays the same. Now, if you don't like smells, don't go to the wastewater.
The drinking water, actually, that side is equally challenging in my opinion, because you do have a lot more direct influence on your customers and their health and safety. So we'll agree to disagree on that one.
All right, so we have about 9 minutes left in the webinar. There are a couple more questions. Katrina, did you have?
Yes, I wanted to ask them, basically it requires a 2-year commitment and the program is broken out by on-the-job learning and distance learning in 6-month intervals. Do they receive a certificate or credential at the end of each 6 months?
We work with the utility to reach those 6-month goals. Thank you. Sorry. And they do receive some level of recognition for each 6-month period. It is documented because, as you said, it's broken up into 4 periods. So yes, they will see a certification of sorts because they have to get through the certain levels of their book training as well. So those are limited to 6-month periods as well. So there's definitely milestones.
Okay, great. And so if there are any other questions that we may not have addressed, if you want to raise your hand and ask them verbally, you can do so at this time. There is a question that asks, who provides the CDL training?
We would do that ourselves at our warehouse. We have a semi truck that we own. So we would actually teach you how to drive that truck and prepare you for the test, not only the book test, but the driving test. And then we would have you set up for the testing. But as far as teaching it, we would, Jamie, myself, our boss, we have numerous CDL drivers here in Florida Rural Water, and Jamie and myself are one.
Thank you so much. I'm looking, Ari and Katrina, were there any questions in the Q&A that I may have missed? I know that we tried to answer the ones that we could, but are there any questions that we may have missed? I see Steve is in here answering questions as well. So,
Hey, Cara.
yes,
That's a good point. Let me jump in with what Steve just wrote. Steve's another one of our trainers. He brought up the fact that reclaimed water is becoming more and more prevalent as an alternative. Eventually, it'll be an alternative to drinking water. It's not yet, but it will. It's definitely moving in that direction. So both drinking water and wastewater are extremely growing and interesting and important fields. So thank you, Steve, for bringing that up.
okay. So I'll just read it because only the panelists can see the question and answers. So I think there was a question that asked, is there more of a demand for drinking water or wastewater? And so that's what Joni was repeating there. So that was the question, the answer to that question. Ari, you had something that we may have missed?
Joni answered the question. That was the question.
Okay, very good. All righty. Well, if there are no other questions, I am looking to make sure that no one else has their hands raised. I am looking in the chat box to make sure that we don't have any additional questions. I am looking in the Q&A box to make sure we don't have any open unanswered questions. I think we've answered all the questions, and we ended up having about, okay, wait, there's one hand. We ended up having about 40 people on with us today. Let me allow this person to speak. Give me a second. Okay, Eddie, go ahead with your question.
He's on mute.
He's muted.
Okay. Maybe he accidentally raised his hand. Okay, no worries. You can always send us the questions afterwards. Okay, he said, so the answer, waste is more important. He's challenging you guys.
No. The answer to that is no. They are both important and they are both equally needed. So you can always start out in drinking water and move to wastewater in the future. How about that?
Yes. All right. So the next steps are, we certainly, for those of you who've attended today, we'll send you a follow-up email about the session, and hopefully we will have some interest. We are looking forward to receiving you. Hopefully you will choose to enroll in these programs. Again, we'll send you some follow-up afterwards. Thank you again to our panelists. Joni, Ben, Jamie, and then Steve, who we didn't see on screen, but he certainly was helpful as well. And thank you to Katrina and Kareen and Ari on staff for helping with this, and then all the staff that participated as well. And thank you, attendees, for being here. Katrina, any parting words?
I just want to thank everyone for attending. I think this has been very informative. Thank you so much to Joni and her team. This has been excellent. This will be available to career seekers in other forms on our social media, our website, and I'm sure Cara was about to tell you all that. But we're looking forward to getting a lot of applications in Employ Florida. So please reach out to us if we can answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, there is one final question asking, how many apprentices are you able to accept?
We will base that on the level of interest. How about that?
Okay. All right, sounds like a fair enough answer to me. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. If you, again, for more information, you can reach out to CareerSource Capital Region at info@careersourcecapitalregion.com. And you can also visit our website at careersourcecapitalregion.com. Thank you again for attending our information session today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.